We are live, Shane.
Welcome to another podcast of Surviving Business. This is a podcast where we delve deep into not only how to survive business, but to also thrive in these crazy times that we find ourselves in. Over the past few weeks, we've had some amazing guests, and I'm joined once again by my buddy, my colleague, my friend, Mr. Ivor Locke. How are you, Ivor?
Very well, thank you, my friend. Very well. How's everything going in your world?
Mate, same. Everyone is getting a little bit stir crazy from sitting at home. I didn't think it would be as difficult as it is. I think there's a fairly creative streak in me that likes to go outside and go to cafes and restaurants. So finding it a little bit challenging. What about yourself?
Look, I think I'm doing too much to actually think about going out right now. There's quite a lot on my plate, and it's quite an exciting time. And I'm starting to see there's a bit of shift with people starting to make the realization that we're going to be in this situation for a while. So the questions people starting to ask are a little bit different than what they were at the beginning when they had that initial shock of, oh my goodness, what's happening, to now, okay, I think we better get serious.
Yeah.
Let's do some planning in a way.
Yeah, look at like as I said, there seems to be different stages that people go through. We are now at that stage where we need to start to prepare for the new world and start to get out of that. Obviously, some of us, myself and yourself and other guests that we've had on board, have obvious and all of the people that are listening to us. There's a reason why they're listening to us, and that is that they are also preparing for not only how to manage their way through this crisis, but to also manage the path on the way out. Mate, obviously the work gets done now and you see the results. It's hard to sort of get people's head around delayed gratification though, isn't it, Ivor?
Of course, everybody wants, if you're a planner right now, you're going to be a little bit crazy. I got people that I know that are planning their holidays. They plan a year ahead, 2 years ahead. They're looking at cheap flights, cheap hotels, wow. Cheap cruises, and right now, I suppose a lot of those plans maybe they've already planned for December, and I don't even know if we're going to be able to fly out of our country by the end of December, let alone actually go on holiday. So, but there are some extra benefits, I think. If we don't holiday outside of the country, we'll holiday within the country, which will be a benefit for the country itself, in a way.
Yeah, you bet. And mate, and look, we've obviously had wealth of information over the last few weeks on how to not only manage our businesses, but more importantly, manage ourselves. I found some of the information has been really, really helpful, even for myself, to break down certain key questions around why we're actually doing what we're doing, the emotional pull that actually gets us to where we need to go. And mate, I'm really excited today. We have another fantastic guest. Who have we got on our line today, Ivor?
Well, we've got somebody really, really, really special. So, this person, oh my goodness. He started with, how do you give $1 million to charity every year? That's his primary question. How's that as a primary question? I mean, I'm sure most people are asking the question in slightly different ways. How do I make $1 million every year? And this is, how do I give $1 million to charity every year? So it's a different question. His first book, Entrepreneur Secrets to Grow, Get, Give Life, reveals the secrets to how he became the trusted advisor and subject matter expert in a marketplace that viewed him as the fox in the henhouse. He's got proprietary training, teaches mid-career entrepreneur business owners to grow your business and build a mountain of credibility. How's that? A mountain of credibility. I mean, that's huge. To get more freedom and adopt Mike's freedom rules. I want to hear all about this, Mike. You've got to tell us all about that. To give back, turn profit into big impact giving, and for his own big impact, he helped guide affluent business owner families to redirect $12.5 million in giving to charitable causes. So I've got a pleasure to bring on at the moment Mike Skrypnek. And Mike, thank you so much for giving up your time and coming to share your knowledge with us. And I want to know, I know that Shane normally asks you the first question, but I want to know, what's this primary question of giving $1 million away every year?
Hi, Ivor. Hi, Shane. Thank you for having me. A decade ago, 12 years ago, we were going through something not unfamiliar to what we've gone through, at least in the financial markets and financial crisis. And when that hit, I was about my 13th year in the investment management industry. And I was living Gordon Gekko Wall Street by day, family man and community volunteer around the periphery. And, these kind of things, the tide rolls out and it reveals what your real business is. And I wasn't living my passion. I just wasn't doing that day to day. And so it took a really big goal to kind of kickstart the next decade. And it was that I just wrote on a whiteboard, how do I give $1 million to charity every year? I didn't have it. I didn't know how I was going to do it. And it set the course for building a business that was rewarding, that allowed me to live my passion 7 days a week. And, that's now what is core to how I train entrepreneurs and business coaches how to do it for themselves.
Fabulous. Fabulous. Honestly, Mike, that is a lot better question than what I had. When I was 20, I actually come up with a core question, which was, how can I pay $1 million in tax? Because I thought, if I can pay $1 million in tax, I'm obviously doing so well. And the year I hit that, I wanted to slap myself so hard across the face. I thought, what a silly goal to implant in myself. I should have had $1 million to charity, because that would have made me feel a lot better than actually giving it away to the tax man. I can promise you.
It's amazing you say that, because that's the critical point for me. After I did this, we have in 6 years, we did $12.5 million to charity, but I was guiding baby boomers in a financial services business, right?
Yes.
And I said, well, where's the leverage? Where is, how can I teach all that stuff that these people were telling me they wish they knew 20 years earlier? How do I teach that to that group today? And so I thought, well, entrepreneurs and business owners are exactly where that leverage could be. And I could get a 10 times that $1 million goal if I just help people like that make a lot of money and pay charity instead of the government. That's what I was really out to do.
Fantastic. And I'm all for that goal, I can tell you. Sometimes giving it to the government feels a little bit like charity. It does in this country anyway. And my friend, can you just give us just a bit of background? Whereabouts are you in the world? What's happening in your space right now, as far as the current crisis, and how are you in general?
So I'm in Canada. And on the West Coast, I'm situated in a city or a town called Squamish, BC, in British Columbia, exactly right between Vancouver, British Columbia, and Whistler, BC. So two very key landmarks in North America. Absolutely gorgeous coastal and mountainous area. The weather is wonderful. We're in a corridor of kind of a modest population, and Canada has had what I would say a real success story everywhere else except for Ontario and Quebec. So in British Columbia, we have a fairly low incident rate. Now that may be about testing. We'll see. Time will tell. But on a proportionate basis, we're not in the same, although we've been living, this is week 6 of a lockdown. So kind of a shelter in place by volunteer. And people have been pretty much living by that. So it feels like every day as usual. However, every day seems to be on Zoom or internet or YouTube or whatever else. So there's just not the interaction that used to be, but it feels, I have a routine. You mentioned Ivor's working so hard. I've put in the hours 7 days a week, but we're getting out every day and getting a walk or a mountain bike in. And then, going through a ritual of family time and then back at work. So I'm really enjoying the way this business life is now working. It's kind of a 7 day a week, but I don't know, there's more balance now than I thought I'd ever have.
It's a very different world that we've found ourselves in, and obviously everybody is adjusting to the new way of doing things. You know, we seem to be right at the precipice of a change in human society as technology starts to pick up pace at the same rate as this pandemic, in the sense that they seem to be coinciding. You know, a lot of stuff being spoken about in different circles about what and where, and conspiracy theories. I won't get into any of that stuff, but what I will say is we seem to be at a very unique point in human history where the technology space is going through the roof at the same time as humans are required to use that, which is putting more energy and more focus into that area. In your experience, you see a lot of businesses out there, a lot of business owners out there that are probably not so much scared, but more about trying to understand this new world. What advice would you give them today on how to actually get up and manage their day towards, you know, going in the right direction?
Oh, there's a long list. Focus would be one. Have a clear vision of where someone wants to be. You know, there is without a doubt an oversaturation of info coming at us now, and there is really one interface with our world for a lot of people, and that's through the internet. And so it can be overwhelming, and you can be distracted. And so what I find is, you know, pick one thing to accomplish and pursue it. I've talked to a lot of people I've coached who had a really hands-on kind of business in the past, have been thrust into this world of being online all the time, or being, you know, having to figure it out. And a lot of people don't understand the language of I'll tell you, the rabbit holes I go down because I don't know the language of certain technology has really is amplified for people who are really foreign to it. And so my message to them is marketing, which is one of the greatest challenges, and we all have to continue to figure out ways to sell and market, and, you know, either get people on side with our ideas or buy our products or services. You should focus more on the message and the marketing, how to connect and engage with people, because the medium, you know, you got to figure out the medium, and it may not be the right platform and the right social media platform or whatever, until you understand, again, this very fundamental things about the clients you work with, you serve, and the marketing message to engage them, to understand that what they want is precisely what you give, and you give them what they need. So, you know, it's just, people are overwhelmed by the new medium for a lot of people. And it comes back to, if you just focus on getting that engagement right, the medium will kind of take care of itself. You'll be able to figure out the path to getting it to the right customer. I don't think most people in offline businesses over the decades had figured out any challenges when things change. You know, you can't use the newspaper, you use a magazine. You can't, you know, stand on a soapbox. Like, it evolves, right? We're just being forced into a medium, but marketing is marketing. We have to figure out how to engage people, build our communities, and exchange that value for commerce.
Yeah, I think you're quite right there, Mike. You know, it's interesting because we talk about community as being a big thing as well, and you know, when we think about meeting face to face, it's quite easy for us to build community, because we can break bread or have a drink or have a chat or even give a hug. You know, we can't do that because we're now living with this lockdown and with this in this virtual world. How have you seen your clients do things a little bit differently? I know we have these like Friday night drinks and virtual drinks and things like that. But if this goes on for a period of time, this isn't going to be something that people are going to enjoy, especially if you're a social person and you get a lot of energy from being with other people as well. Have you noticed this is actually been quite a big impact with the people that you work with at the moment?
Interestingly enough, and I have it on the board behind me, and it was just for stuff I was doing earlier today, is that I think we've hit this naturally for me. 6 weeks is kind of my energy level. And then I take a break 4 or 5 days where I'm not working. And we're kind of 6 weeks here, at least in North America. And people have taken a break. Those virtual happy hours were starting to happen. And, I saw some entertainment and people having fun. And then now it's kind of petered off a little bit. And in fact, I got a notice today that our local Chamber of Commerce canceled their virtual happy hour scheduled for tomorrow, which was just a social mixer. They just moved it online. But because there's a disinterest. So there's a waning interest, or people are looking to step away a little bit because they do miss, I miss hugging. I'm a hugger. I like to hug my clients. I greet them with a hug. That's not going to happen for a while. And I really don't know how we can, bridge that gap personally. It's hard. Malcolm Gladwell's Talking to Strangers came out late last year, right? Or last year. And it was a great book. But it's so funny how reliant we are, even though he dispelled the myth of understanding that you think you know people, right? We still need that breaking bread or have a drink to get to know people personally. And we have a little more comfort, whether we're right or wrong about what our assessment is, seems to be less important to how we feel in terms of those primal things of social networks and safety and bringing people into our sphere. So how we do that online, how we do it in video, it's evolving. I don't think we're anywhere near a comfortable environment for the majority of people.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I've been talking a lot about this, about us now entering the technological revolution. And I think we've been in it for probably the last decade, but the last 5 years has been like the acceleration of it in a way. And I was having a conversation with a client this morning, and it was really just about, where do we see the opportunities, and where's the gaps in or the need? And I said really, let's have a look at what we can see. Well, what can you see at the moment?
You know what I was searching up the other day? I was searching up how to put a hologram of me into a meeting. And the technology is about $38,000 to $50,000. So it's a little prohibitive for what I wanted to do. Yeah. But that's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at, where does technology become an interface that gives us the comfort of distance, but maybe allow us to small group environments, to safe, there's a company out of Vancouver, quite frankly, and they've got this product called Proxy, and they're in the industrial electrical business. So they manage workers on major industrial sites. And you put on this wristband, and everybody wears a wristband. It's connected to an app. And if you're within 2 meters of each other, it vibrates, right? So we're going to get these adaptations using technology that allow us to engage, but give us reminders of the distancing that we need. And until there's a vaccine or some kind of like really core treatment that doesn't create this potential death rate, we definitely have to live in these distancing kind of scenarios. So we have no choice but to embrace a technological kind of adaptation. I just don't know what's out there leading the charge. I mean, I looked at holograms. I know they exist. I mean, concerts are held with bands that are holograms only. I mean, it happens, but I don't know how to integrate that into my business in a way that people feel comfortable with me in their living room. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. Tony, well, the closest thing, and I think the next best technology is virtual reality, in a way. So that's going to change things. So Mike, tell us a little bit more about your book that you've released on that you've got new release. Tell us, you've got this whole thing about growing, getting, and giving. Tell us a little bit more about it, because I'm intrigued, because what we read out earlier, these it has got quite a bit of meaning, and it's a little bit of a different spin to everybody else at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, it all started with that $1 million kind of goal, right? To give to charity. And what mattered to me is that I was working with people daily who had an impact mindset. That's kind of the first. So the give back, like I know it's grow, get, give, but give ended up being what attracted people to me in the first place. We shared the value that we, at some point, and often it's mid-career business owners and entrepreneurs who are just struggling to serve. They know they want to do more, and if they could only do more and serve more people, they would have the impact that they always wanted. So those are the people that I wanted in my life. Those are the clients I wanted to serve, and they're the people I wanted to help. And often, as entrepreneurs, we have either one challenge or the other. One is we aren't making the money that we hope to make, and that's usually messaging and our sales and our clients. And then on the other side, we might be doing fine financially, but we have no time. It's no life if everyone knows the drill on Sunday night at 9 to shut up because dad's on the phone. Like that wasn't a life that most families want to live, right? So you either had not enough money and not enough time. And the interesting thing is if you can get more freedom in the way you approach your business and the way you approach your life, you tend to, with more time, make more money. And if you've got your marketing right. So grow your business is all about building a mountain of credibility. And that is, how do I move from being an advisor that everyone hated in 2008, and I wanted to serve charity and high net worth donors and philanthropists? How do I move from the fox in the hen house to be accepted as a credible expert in the room that is there to serve them as one of them, right? How do I do that? Yep. And I learned in my grow your business, through building a mountain of credibility, that's how you do it. And ultimately for me, it was write a book. There's many other steps: get published, write articles, be interviewed. But if only Oprah would have interviewed me about my book, it would have been the pinnacle of my mountain of credibility. But that really elevates where you stand and being instantly credible and recognized as the subject matter expert. So I got, okay, that started to work. And then the business came in, and it went from cold calling and, really putting your foot in the door to people calling you and recognizing you as the person who could solve their challenges, right? And that mountain of credibility did everything. All of a sudden, it was so much work, but at the end of it, it was instant credibility and attraction. And then I ended up so busy that I'm like, I can't juggle all these balls. I have to figure out better processes for my business. And that's where Get More Freedom. And I developed these freedom rules around people, processes, and systems, because I believe if you bring those into your life in the right way, they set you free. And I was willing at one point to be, it was like William Wallace in Braveheart. I was willing to die for my freedom. And, so I was doing well, and I just couldn't get away from the office. Once I figured that out, all of a sudden I had my business growing. I got my freedom. I could really concentrate on not just the philanthropic give back that I had always been helping others with, but giving back to yourself, your family, and your community in a way of appreciation and gratitude. So it kind of led me full circle from impact mindset, grow your business, get more freedom, and then back to giving, but focusing on your health, your family health, and the well-being of your community. And, it just seemed like a natural process. And, ultimately, if someone says, well, what should I do more of? Or should I focus on one area as a business owner, entrepreneur? And really, it's about treating those three parts as levers. And you can just pull harder in the grow your business side or the get more freedom side, wherever it applies to you. But if you focus on these three kind of buckets, all of these things, and just work them in the right way, they just create wonderful results, and they become a lifestyle. It removes the barriers of work and personal life. It just drops them down. So it's just all in one. So for me, it's been really powerful. For the clients I coach, it's been powerful. The book, basically, I had great coaches. I didn't know anything about doing it, so I went and hired great coaches. I modeled incredible advisors who'd done it before me, read buckets and buckets and piles of books, and then I just did everything I was told. And so I stuck 90 of those secrets into the book because they worked for me, and they created a business that was 10 times bigger. I took 3 months off a year, and I helped people give 12.5 million to charity. It was kind of a real impactful experience. So the book just shares, just do the things. Read the book, do the things, live your life that way, and it'll work out really, really well.
Fantastic, fantastic. And did you notice what was a bit of a pattern that when you were working with your fairly wealthy or very wealthy clients, was you a bit of a, once it actually reached that stage of having everything, was there a different mindset that they had? Were they changing their mindset, or what do you think they moved into? Because as you said, you had that stage of where people are driving to achieve that success, and then they achieve it, and then they've got it, and that's where you've actually now, when they moved it back into giving again. But what's that kind of mindset when they in that space of, I've got enough money to live my life and have the freedom? In a way.
Well, there's kind of two phases, because there's that driving, and then I'd be pretty loose to say the age, but let's say 35 to 55. And at 55, maybe that entrepreneur owner has made it. And then you see these big headlines of so-and-so giving, millions of dollars to charity. And really it's part of tax planning. It's part of a liquidity event, but they're not done working yet. And they still don't feel like they're free to give. And they're looking to their retirement or their whatever it is, their next thing, what is. And then I was working with a lot of baby boomers, and what was amazing, I would present to these people, I would 20 or 40 people, 4 times a year, 5 charities per year. So I saw hundreds and hundreds and not thousands of people. And I decided to take their feedback and just do a little statistics work with it. And their priorities still always were, number 1, am I paying too much tax? Number 2, do I have enough money for myself? 3, do I have enough for my children and my friends? And 4, I'm not sure if I'm even on track. Do I have the right plan? And then the 5th was charity. So even people who had done really well, who were set financially, were still concerned if they'd have enough. And these type of times that have happened every, 2008, 2001, 92, 87, all these different moments in time kind of reinforce that concern that they're worried that they don't have enough. What I was able to do with people is show them how they could have what they need, they can allocate to charity, and they could in fact cut out the tax man if they desired, and pass on that wealth in a way that they saw fit. So we cut through that. The biggest challenge was getting those young entrepreneurs to think that you can do it as you go. So 12 years ago, I was 38 when I started that journey, and I'm turning 50 next month. And when I started that journey, I was that entrepreneur who said, okay, when I'm rich, I'll figure it out. And then I said, no, I can do this now. I can have that impact. The challenge is understanding whether it's your money, or maybe it's your advocacy, maybe it's your wisdom, whatever it is, you can actually make a bigger impact, either charitably or just in your community and your city or your municipality. Then you realize, if you understand what your core strengths are that you bring to the table.
We see all the time too, Mike, that, the journey of that entrepreneur goes from all about myself to then all of a sudden making that shift all about other people as well. And that is the big, and then I usually find it goes back to themselves and then goes back to the people. It's almost like these levels of consciousness that they're going up through. And we're seeing at the moment, in particular with the world, the way it's going at the moment, there seems to be a big shift from this consumerism where it's all about us, to all of a sudden now understanding, well, hang on a second, we as a species need to go forward as a group. So do you see this as a really positive movement, especially for the mindset that you're talking about, of shifting entrepreneurs from, being about themselves to all of a sudden, oh, hang on a second, if I actually help other people, I will get the feelings and I will get the the drive and the direction that I'm actually truly longing for now.
I'm really excited about that evolution. I was in the hoarding industry and I said, I want to give it away,
Yes.
back. And that was a paradigm shift that all my peers thought I was crazy. They didn't even want me to succeed, really. They're like, you're an idiot. And I made it work. And now, we're in this short-term window of scarcity. Everybody, that's reasonable. You should be considering what you're doing with your cash, not hoarding it, but you should be, piling it up and going, now, how am I going to use it? Right?
Mm-hmm.
How am I going to use it either to live and invest in myself, invest in the community? But once we get past this little moment of scarcity and whatever that new financial normal is for generally most people, then we can look at this shift that you just mentioned about, less about us as individuals, more about our recognition that how connected we are. We were all connected positively in that we are sharing information at a minute by minute rate. We're connected negatively because we get to share this virus worldwide. And in no other time in history, I don't think, has anyone ever been in their own home at the same time across the entire globe. Like, it's strange. But when we get to that next spot, we're going to have this, how do we take action to make this a reality? How do we make this part of our business, our lives going forward? How do we make this awareness that we do rely on our it's amazing what political actions have pushed everybody to this nationalism,
Yes.
the country first, forget the global community. And now we're so reliant on wherever there's a success in the global community, we're all going to need it to get over this, right? So wherever those are, we have to celebrate them and bring them into our lives. So now there's this need to be connected again. And that's going to be very powerful in how business is conducted, respect for other people, dignity of other people. I know that we've all gotten, unfortunately used to being crowded into places. And, some of this distancing is going to allow us, some more respected personal space and possibly a lot more grace and consideration, I think, for others.
Yeah.
So that would be a wonderful thing to bring to business and day-to-day life, for everybody in general, I think.
Yeah, you bet. And look, I totally agree with you. And I think that for the first time in a long time too, we're actually starting to see, because people aren't getting their little microcosms of news from, let's say, the guy that they work with or the lady that does their hair. They're actually getting information all from one source, which is, in one way, I can understand where people are a little bit concerned about that. But for me, it's about raising the level of consciousness right across the planet, in all areas. There's countries out there that have been so far behind other countries as far as awareness and contribution. They're still in survival mode or in tribal mode, if we're going to look at a spiral dynamics type scenario. And now we're starting to see this evening out, this almost like a leveling of the playing field right across the planet as people are starting to learn from each other, which is a great thing. And when we talk about charity, I heard you mention it earlier, that it's not always monetary, is it? It's also about time. It's also about knowledge. It's also about love and compassion. Could you talk to us a little bit about maybe some of the other ways that people could contribute?
Oh my God, the list is many. Just one point on the wisdom of crowds. So there's a book called The Wisdom of Crowds by a fellow named James Surowiecki. It was written, over a decade, 15 years ago or so. And it talked about how generally people en masse make good decisions, or make the decision that's probably the right decision all in all. In fact, they did it on a jelly bean guessing kind of thing. And people come within, the bigger the crowd, the more likely the right answer on consensus, right? And so we're seeing this global crowd coming to conclusions, and maybe at the level of the consciousness that you're thinking about, the global awareness, we're coming to conclusions en masse 7 billion people get to weigh in on how they feel about where we're going. And, you know, where that takes us, who knows? Where we have opportunities, obviously, and in a world where we're concerned about scarcity, giving of yourself by time, by compassion. I have some B's out there, I call B's: be kind, being giving, being caring about one another, being compassionate, and being positive. Those 5, you know, B's, if you will, are areas where if you just explore what that means, you may end up finding that it's time. You may end up finding it's like helping just on a volunteer basis. It may be capital. You may have to reallocate money to other sources to help other organizations. But if you use some of those B's as your guiding posts, kind of, it's one of those, a great process, all the right answers filter out, right? So if you start with, you know, wonderful ideas or ideals, and just say, how do I get there? It becomes more clear. So I don't know, it's not necessarily money or time or advocacy. I think it's everything is on the table, but it depends on your circumstance.
Yeah, absolutely.
Isn't it funny, Ivor, how there's a shift in, mate, like when somebody's, it's not about what you have. I think it was Dr. Wayne Dyer that said, it's not about what you have, just switch the H out for a G and you get the right idea, right? It's what you gave. That's what will you be remembered for. And that's really what it comes down to, how you leave a lasting legacy.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, you know, it's an interesting concept because, you know, and Mike, you come from a financial background, a financial planning background, so you know you'll understand this quite a bit. But you know, well, one of the things that we can't get away from in this world, you know, as much as people want to contribute, and you know, we look at contribution as being very high level of giving, you know, time and you know themselves and all those type of things. But the one thing that I cannot get away from, and I remember when I started really focusing down on freedom, how important money was, in a way. You know, the thing is, for me, it was so. Wait a minute, you know, I can't be the best version of myself. I cannot be that philanthropic person and give and solve the world's problems without money. Have you found that to be the same case in your space, especially around freedom?
No question. However, and what might be happening, and I don't know how long. I mean, we all have short memories, and 3 years out from this, once we've got some of this in the rearview mirror, we'll probably go back to the old ways. I don't know. Hopefully not. Some things have improved. But what I've noticed is the idea that you're now looking at money. People are looking at their money differently. Your money is designed to support your life. That first and foremost, if I can get security of shelter, food, clothing, and a standard that I want to live at, there's that money. And then any excess money before maybe this crisis was going into consumerism, right? All I can think of with my excess money is, how do I get more leverage in my business to help more people so I can have bigger impact? And number 2, how can I leverage my capital to do more things, right? In other words, things being, you know, I was able to help families take a $5,000 gift and turn it into a $500,000 gift because we understood how to use products that gave them leverage in their giving and in their risk planning. And most of it was insurance, but nevertheless, that was an interesting example of turning 5 into 500. The same is what we're looking for in impact. How do we turn $5 into, you know, $500,000 or $5,000 into $500,000 of impact? And so I'm looking at excess capital, whatever people are kind of partitioning off around what they need. They're looking at it differently now. And I think that's definitely changed everybody, and changed with everybody. Is no longer I'm looking at opulence and consumerism to make my life better. Money makes your life better because it affords you comfort and freedom from worrying about the things that we need just to get by. But once you're at that point, what do you do with the excess? And so investing in yourself, in impacting others, and then how do you impact the world at large, I think are becoming top line items above just getting by. And, you know, I can feel that as an awareness, and I would love to help other people kind of navigate that. You know, if you could create kind of the roadmap for that, you know, that's part of my give back mantra, is that there are ways to do that. And so now with everybody looking at things in that realm, I think that's definitely a shift. What are you going to do with your excess capital?
Yeah,
It doesn't serve, you know, billionaires any extra to keep 10 of their 12 billion, you know, parked. Who is it serving?
I don't
Nobody.
get that either. I don't, like, we have enough resources on this planet and enough money that's being floated around on this planet right now to completely solve the entire world's challenges. There wouldn't be a child that went unfed. There wouldn't be a person unhoused. It's boggling to me that we have, as a species, just allowed ourselves to be ruled by money, in a sense that we've actually allowed ourselves to be just sort of grabbed by it to the point where somebody is rewarded or celebrated for having $50 billion. You know what I mean? It's almost, and we celebrate that person as they're somehow smarter, that they need, you know, that we need to listen to that person. And where did that come from? And how do we, Mike, do you think, how do we make a shift on such a big level? Is there a tipping point where people start to go, you know what, maybe we don't need, you know, a G5 instead of a G4 plane. Maybe that, you know, couple of $100 million might go better in a different field? Or are we just always that competitive by nature as a species that we're always going to, there's going to be a large selection of us that will always compete for anything, even fake pieces of paper with dead people's faces on it?
Well, the best way to get rich, this is why the rich get richer, is they have patience. And if you have all of the needs that you could possibly imagine covered, and all the other capital parked, it's got to go somewhere. So it's invested. It's invested in things, products, companies, services, and stocks, whatever. Inevitably, that money grows. So the mentality isn't so much about they're not hoarding. They're actually, it's inevitable that if you're ultra wealthy, that your money will grow, like, because you can't spend it. It has to be parked somewhere, and you can only lose so much money intentionally. Like, it's just, it gets to a point. So helping others identify where that means, like Buffett, it was a major shift for Warren Buffett when Bill Gates finally convinced him over whatever, probably a game of chess, when they did the giving pledge, to say, I'm going to pledge my wealth, because Buffett had no interest in doing that. He figured by investing in the economy, that was his give back, and that people were working and people had benefit financially because of what he did with Berkshire Hathaway, right? Until he realized that there's no way in heck he's going to ever spend the billions he had, so that he actually would have made that pledge. Jeff Bezos gets a hard time right now for the massive, but he's just gone out and he's hiring 75 or 100,000 people for Amazon to support. You think those people don't need work? They need work. So he's making a massive contribution in his way, and he gets maligned for having this huge cash reserve. Like, he's just employing, what is that? What is 100,000 people at $50,000 wage, like, or 30,000, whatever that is. Like, that's staggering. He's doing more than the government in some ways, right? Like, I don't know. Like, there's a point at which people must reallocate, rethink their positioning. The Giving Pledge was started 15 years ago or so. It was one of those monumental ideas around you're so wealthy, you don't need it. Your kids will be fine. Your kids' will be fine. I don't think at those levels people contemplate, quite frankly, the 10 billion that they're not using. I don't. I really actually think, and we'd be, you know, they're not thinking of hoarding it. They're just not thinking about how they're going to give it away either. They just don't think about how they're going to mobilize that capital to help humanity. And that's kind of maybe one of these moments in time with this pandemic that more people might be conscious about this.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we've noticed you know, and I think throughout the whole theme of a lot of what we've been doing, then a lot of people have always said, like, if you're feeling that, you know, a little bit afraid, a little bit fearful, that actually just get into the space of saying, how do I contribute? How can I give to another human being? How can I help another human being? And when you get into that space, you know, that you know, you kind of forget that actually you're in this fearful moment in a way. So have you seen a bit of a transition also with your clients, that have actually had this initial shock and then that are tapering off and that are changing over time in a way?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned survive and thrive at the beginning of this. I
Yep.
hit the ground running, and I've already finished a 4-week course with clients called Survive and Thrive. It was the whole idea was crisis ops, opportunities, and operations. So we secured people's operations, and then the second half we looked at opportunities. And I'm getting a lot of that. People, once we were able to give them the comfort, my clients in particular, once we were able to give them the comfort that this is your new reality, this business might not exist going forward in the way that it was. And now we've dealt with our staff, now we've dealt with our own personal cash flows and our business cash flows, we're kind of secure. Now what? Like, how are we going to navigate this? And so a number of clients have taken, they've taken different routes. One, in one aspect, you have people who just completely shifted their entire business right online and actually are accelerating through this. You have others who said, well, this is one of those opportunities like I had 12 years ago where they went, this was never the business I wanted to live anyway, so I'm going to deconstruct and reconstruct it. They're going to take this window to work on me, be better, and build a better business. And then others are using it to prepare for a masterful launch of a brand new initiative. So, all of these different things seem to be the right thing for certain people at this time. One of the interesting components, byproducts of this shutdown is time. There's so much, although I know you haven't either, Ivor. Shane, I have to guess for the same for you. I haven't felt like I had lots of time because I've been working more than ever. But at the same time, people have been given that moment. And generally, what are you going to do with that time? How are you going to invest in you and, improving whatever it was about you? It might be personal. It might be, I wanted to lose weight, get fit, and be healthier. Well, that's helpful. That's helpful to everybody around you. I just want my business to be better, so I'm going to invest in learning technology or read 16 books in the next 5 weeks, whatever it is, right? So I think that having people have that benefit of time to do the things that they never thought they could because they were on a treadmill is really, really constructive.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's actually quite interesting because I've been working like a Trojan, and and it's interesting because I can see that these incredible opportunity and these so much these gaps to be filled, but also I've also noticed and I'm a pretty technologically efficient human being. I've got electrical engineering background. I've done IT. I'm pretty good with all the stuff. And it's only when I started really having to be almost forced to go online in a way like what we're doing at the moment, and starting to look at all of the different tools and everything else that we needed to actually make it all work, that I realized, actually, wait a minute, my knowledge skill there's a bit of a gap in it, in a way.
Yeah, for sure.
And we've been closing the gap over time, and Shane knows that. We've been closing that gap, and every single time we do a session, it's a little bit better. And it's interesting because what I've been actually saying to a lot of my clients as well is that if you're not investing into becoming more technologically enabled and you don't understand technology, I think right now you will be left behind. Do you agree with that?
Oh, I totally do. If it's always been that way, though. If you don't embrace technology, you won't progress. And the challenge is in the past, way past, you could not embrace technology and fake it. No one is going to be allowed that fake. Things are rapidly changing. I'm so excited to understand what technological evolutions happen after this. Like, I don't know what's going to come out of a year from now. There's going to be a new company with new products and a way of doing whatever we're doing today better, right?
Yeah.
In a way that we've never thought possible. And that's exciting. But if you could be, well, I only do, like for me, speaking and training and workshops, I had a pretty good program figured out, and I had a very consistent methodology about getting people to an audience. And, now I had to figure out how to attract people online to break through the noise, to ensure that they still got the same quality product and service and information. But now I had to figure out, how do I get them into my room online? And that was I had to scramble to figure that out. And, now I'm doing a book, How to Write Your Book, on Friday, a 2-hour webinar, and I filled it, packed it. I never could do that before. And so people are focused on, if you give them a better alternative online now, you'll be able to get those wins, and those little wins will keep people back in the technology. And before there were so many other options that people, if it didn't work online, they could just go offline and figure it out, right? And there'd be another way to sell your product or service. Now you don't really have a choice. You have to figure this out, and being forced into it will allow a lot of people to get through it. But again, I break it down to the language. Sometimes you just get baffled by the words and the language. And I really wish a lot of technology developers would just use common language across the board instead of every product. Don't you find it? Every product's got a new name for what you do, and it's all the same stuff, but you're like, none of it communicates, and I just get lost.
I think it was Keith Cunningham. We went to a business seminar once, and he was telling a story about Australians and cricket, the game of cricket. And if people don't understand the game of cricket, the language just seems absolutely borderline ridiculous. And that's what computers seems to be at this point. They seem to just build a new language every time that they want to do one. There's we were watching a show the other week where the computer language was actually all done in cow sounds. So it's just bizarre. Some of the things that are coming out are bizarre, but the beauty of it is when you break it down, the technology sector is moving at such a rapid rate at the moment. I remember going to a Tony Robbins seminar a couple of years ago, and he was in a hologram, and he was a hologram Tony that ran the whole seminar, and he was speaking to people and pointing to them in the crowd, and that was fantastic. That was in Sydney, and that was so maybe we get to a point very soon where we get to a position where you don't know whether somebody's in the room or not, that we are actually walking around a house and connecting. But it's going to be an interesting space, right?
Yeah, it's funny. I have a 16 and a 19-year-old at home. It's wonderful it's weird having 4 adults living and eating my God, my grocery bill is out the roof. And then I asked them to help me with technology. Here's the challenge. It's so ubiquitous for them in their lives, and they don't even think about everything that needs to be done. They just do it, right?
Yeah.
There's they don't have to learn the language. It's just, they just get it. And that's a huge gap, and I'm not that old. Right. And I consider myself pretty dialed in, but I asked them to help me, and they're like, they can't help me because they just go, just do this. And I learn nothing. Right.
Yeah.
So it's a big gap, and they're ready. Our kids, my son, he took his school. He's in school. Like they were out of school, but he's been in class for the last couple of weeks, and now he's basically done for the year because he's so far ahead. He just sits down for 2.5 hours, does his work every morning, and now he's way ahead of the entire school, and he could graduate. So education is going to be one of the places where this revolution happens, and a lot of antiquated ways of doing it are going to be wiped out.
Hallelujah.
I would say the biggest opportunity to be exploited and explored is in education. And for us in the coaching world, it's great because training is part of education and rebuilding one's wisdom and knowledge, right? But education as we know it is so disrupted that it'll never be the same.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, absolutely. It's almost like we folded time, isn't it? Even though we slowed everything down, but we've also, it's almost like what we could do 10 years ago, what's going to happen in the next 20 years is actually now almost here, because
Oh yeah.
the demand for what for what is needed is suddenly gone up. I mean, it's the first time that you go to the place where you buy computers and you can't get a computer screen. That's never ever been the case, ever. And I mean, even like I get onto Amazon, I wanted to Shane, I wanted to buy one of the Zoom recorders.
Yeah.
They won't ship it out to me on Amazon, and which is good. I mean, it made me look closer to home and look at buying it locally. Because some of the guys stock it locally as well. But it's interesting how the world's actually shifting in a way. Even things coming out of China at the moment have been delayed. I mean, prior to COVID-19, I ordered something and it needed to come in from China, and I think I received it like 6 weeks later, in a way, or 8 weeks later. So it's that whole supply chain has been disrupted, and I think this is the one thing that's going to be very interesting to watch, is how we're going to distribute, goods across the globe, because I think we now know 100% how small the world is, in a way. And I think that's one of the biggest gains that we've had, is how small the world is and how interdependent we are on each other, in a way, because it's no longer this or that, in a way.
Well, you're right. And when you think about distribution, the supply chain challenges lie in the humans, right? So the next step would be logically to remove as many humans from that process so that they're not the weak link in the whole supply chain. And that's going to be robotics and AI. So that's a huge leap for us. And even what we're doing today and what we'll maybe do in 3 months in terms of the technology we use, we just leapt as a society, global society, in like technologically. Most people weren't on these platforms and they just leapt into them. Think about Africa, I don't know how long, probably 15, 20 years ago, where they basically almost no one had a phone, like a landline, let alone a cell phone. And then all of a sudden, a decade goes by and commerce, banking, business, and cell phones are all over the place. And they basically leapt from no phones to fully connected, right? And that technological leap didn't feel like a massive leap, but if you step back, you look at it, go, holy cow, that was a leap. We may be in the midst of one of those leaps that if we look back and objectively in a year or two from now, we'll go, wow, society just did another leap.
Yeah.
I just don't know what it is. And we might be doing it right now, but
Well, I know that they're releasing 5G. I don't know. Has 5G come into your world yet?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And has that changed? Have you noticed a difference with 5G?
Nothing yet. Haven't noticed anything yet. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, because I know that
there's more and more people sprouting off about weird things about it. Bottom line is probably going to be just great, but barely noticeable. I don't know how we're going to notice such a big leap, but whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, we definitely know that the world is going to change, and it has changed already. With technology, I mean, we're the same age, Mike, and when I thought about, I only dreamt about the fact that we'd be able to do something like this, in a way, that I'll be able to speak to somebody in another country and be able to see them, let alone have a conversation, over any type of device. So, just in the 4 decades that I can remember, it's like, this is like blows my mind, in a way.
Yeah, it is awe-inspiring, isn't it?
It is.
And what's really interesting is you and I, if we have the same, at any point we have the same night sky, I don't know if we do, if we share the right time zone, that we can both be in the dark at the same time. But if you and I are both in the dark at the same time, we get to see Elon Musk's SpaceX trickle of satellites go around the globe.
Yeah,
As he builds this huge ring that's going to be circling our atmosphere, right? Orbiting the globe. But we can share that together. And that's going to give instantaneous access to the internet on a global level if it works the way it's intended to. But we get to look up into the heavens at the exact same time, not just see the same stars, but we get to see the same technology, and we can be on the phone at the same time on the internet because of that, and enjoy it at the exact same time. Like that is,
Oh yeah, it is crazy.
And my kids think it's just normal.
Yeah. No, it's insane. It's insane. Absolutely. Well, Mike, it's been such a great privilege to have you on. I think was that a Carolyn? Was that a question?
No, I think
no. This is a reminder of a good quote.
Okay, great, awesome. Well, Mike, I loved having you on board. Thank you so much for giving us your time. I love your book as well. I haven't started, to be very honest, I haven't started reading it yet, and but I've got to get into it. I'm actually more inspired to read it now after having this conversation with you as well. But really excited. Where we're going to go next. We're part of the same thought council through the C-suite network as well, and it's going to be a bit of a ride because normally I think the last time we meet each other. No, we haven't met each other yet.
Man, we haven't. We've all been shut in. We haven't had the chance.
Yeah, absolutely. So I look forward to eventually breaking bread with you at some point in time.
Love that.
Which will be amazing. But we'll keep having conversations along the way. But thank you so much again,
Mike.
Thank you. My book is available on Amazon for anyone out there who thinks they would like to dig in. It's an easy read, by the way, Ivor. And it's information and entertaining, interesting. You'll get through that no problem.
Thank you so much.
It may seem intimidating. It's a big work.
And Mike, is that the best way for people to get in contact with you, mate? Have you got a website that they can go to?
They can buy the book on Amazon.com or wherever in the world they are. My website is growgetgive.com. It's pretty simple. You can find me there, and then I'm on Facebook and LinkedIn. And if you're on social media and you don't find me, you're not looking.
Fantastic.
Yeah. No, fantastic. Thank you so much again. I love where you come from and where you're going with the impact that you're having, and and I think this building this legacy going forward, I think it's so needed in the world as well. And I want to get this. We need to get this message out a lot more because, as Shane said earlier on, with the world's wealth, we shouldn't be struggling. In reality, as a first world population, and it doesn't cost that much money to feed people at the end of the day.
No, it doesn't, and they just need guides who are with them all along. The richest people on the planet, the reason they give is because their parents gave and their parents' gave, like they were taught, right? They had good role models, good mentors. If we can be those people, we can be the Yoda in people's lives for that, then great. If they can build a business and have success and wealth and be values oriented and give back in a way that has bigger impact, then that's awesome. Just, we got to be there along the way though, Ivor. We can't be there at the end of the day when they're counting the money. They have to have it built into their mindset.
Beautiful. I love it, Mike. Thank you very much for sharing your pearls of wisdom today, my friend. We really look forward to staying connected, and I hope a lot of people out there today actually take note of that you don't have to wait to get to the end. You have to make the shift now and build it along the way and live that space. And everybody could do just a little bit more. I tell you what, the world would be a different place today. So, mate, thank you very much, Mike. Thank you, Ivor. I will see everybody. Thank you, everybody, for jumping online. Thank you, Carolyn, for the wonderful message there to Mike. Ivor, that's just another wrap up for another one, mate. We've got another one on tomorrow as well. Who have we got?
We don't have one on tomorrow. We're going to have a small little break tomorrow. But we will have a couple more guests coming in next week. So please check out for the updates as we bring them on board ultimately.
Fantastic. Excellent. All right, everybody stay safe and stay home, and we will see you next week.
Take care.
Have a good one. Bye-bye.